Okay, Sameera, a woman comes to you and says that her husband has admitted to using pornography. So aside from the hurt that ensues from that piece of information, she's also divulging that her husband is having difficulty becoming sexually aroused. So what is your advice on how to deal with this?
Tarek, this is really common and really heartbreaking to see. So one thing that we need to realize is pornography rewires our brain, and that includes sexually. So when we are used to, dopamine and neurotransmitters becoming heightened by images and us, getting self-gratification from that, our spouse no longer becomes wired in that way. So a lot of men will often have difficulty becoming aroused in real life marital intimacy context. So that's number one. The second is to validate that this is almost like emotional betrayal. It's beyond intimacy at this point because it's your spouse looking at explicit images and videos of other people. So I think we have to understand the emotional hurt that this really causes with the spouse and the rift in the marriage that happens. So oftentimes, while sexual intimacy is impacted, we have to go back to the foundation of, first of all, the person using pornography will need support to taper off of that and then to unlearn what has been learned. And then second, we need to fill in the cracks that have formed in the marriage. There needs to be more trust and emotional intimacy built. I advise spouses to start dating each other again, spending time with one another, really fostering a sense of connection. And then that, inshallah, rebuilding the trust will lead towards sexual intimacy, but it really is impactful of every layer of marriage. And I think that's often not really discussed. The intimacy part's focused on, and then we have to also understand the full range of intimacy in marriage is impacted.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add because if somebody asked me that question, probably my default response would be to send you a message
Yeah.
or send that person to you. But one thing that I do want to mention that you sort of highlighted on was the impact that images have on us. We can't help but every day we see certain images all the time. I mean, good images, bad images, neutral images, but I don't think we really audit what we see. I think that many times we're just passive. We're passive consumers of information. We're passive consumers of images, of videos, of sound, etc. And I think auditing what we see and what we allow to see is important. I remember, just as a sort of personal thing, I remember I only went to Hajj once, one time, and I remember it was such a memorable experience. And I remember that somebody had given me a picture book of the Mosque of Medina as a gift, like right before the Hajj. So when I returned to home, and I remember looking through this book, I was just consumed by looking at these old images of Medina. And I remember for several nights thereafter, all of my dreams and all of my visions were about the mosque in Medina and, the Hajj related things. And I came out of that experience saying, well, look, I just flooded my system with the stimulation of these images. So of course, that's what's going to be on my conscience. But that's how we are all the time. And it was an important reminder for me personally that when I feel off the track, sometimes I just want to look at the right thing. What are the images that we have in our homes? What are the images we have on our phones? What are the images that we have in our personal space at work, et cetera, et cetera? Those things are a tool for us. So I think if somebody's having intimacy issues as a result of the pornography, part of the professional help they're going to need is to reverse the type of images that they're feeding themselves. I love the idea of dating your spouse again. It's very easy to fall in a routine when you're married, especially if you have children. It's sort of you're just surviving, every week to stay ahead of the week. It's very important to and we're all guilty that we don't do it enough, but it's very important to carve out that time to schedule it and to do it. So thank you for sharing that. But I wouldn't have much more to add than what you have already stated.
Well, the part that I really appreciate you sharing is the removal of the images. So being able to stay away from the technology that we're bombarded with is sometimes the prescription that I give. I tell people you need to have a halwa every now and then. You need a spiritual seclusion of place technology away once a day, sit down in a room that is beautiful, that is adorned with traditional items and with plants, and you look out the window. Like, let our soul be exposed to natural, beautiful things, because like you said, reaching for a phone is just so automatic now, but being able to desensitize ourselves and slowly train ourselves to not be with technology is, I think, an art of the tradition that we've lost that can really help it in this situation, inshallah, for people.
Inshallah. Inshallah.